My boyfriend announced at our rehearsal dinner, "You're so low class compared to my ex," in front of both our families. I stood up, smiled politely, and answered, "You're right. I'd never cheat on you the way she cheated on you." Then I picked up my purse and walked away. The wedding cancellation emails began before sunrise. My name is Emma Carter. I'm 29 years old, and until that night, I believed I was about to marry the love of my life. Instead, I discovered I had spent 3 years auditioning for a family that had already decided I would never be good enough. Funny thing about humiliation, sometimes it doesn't arrive like a slap. Sometimes it arrives dressed in designer clothes, holding a champagne flute, smiling while everyone laughs. Our rehearsal dinner was held in one of the most expensive restaurants downtown. Crystal chandeliers floated above white linen tables, fresh orchids covered every centerpiece, and a violinist played near the windows overlooking the river. Everything looked like it belonged in a luxury wedding magazine, yet I was the only thing that felt completely out of place. Daniel's parents had chosen the restaurant. Of course they had. They liked places where reservations took months and the wine list looked longer than a novel. There were around 40 people there, both families, the bridal party, close relatives, and a handful of longtime friends. Everyone dressed beautifully. Everyone smiled. Everyone pretended this was simply another celebration. His father was paying for the dinner. That wasn't unusual. Daniel's family had money, real money. Country club memberships, private golf tournaments, annual ski vacations in Switzerland, family attorneys, investment advisors, and a vacation house they called the small place. My family wasn't poor. We were simply normal. My father had spent 30 years repairing engines. Grease permanently stained the lines around his hands, no matter how much he scrubbed. My mother worked 12-hour shifts as a nurse and never complained. Together, they sacrificed vacations, new cars, and countless weekends to help me graduate from college without drowning in debt. I worked in technical support. Nothing glamorous, nothing impressive to people obsessed with titles. But I paid my bills, saved money, helped my parents when they needed it, and I had always been proud of that. Until I met Daniel's family. Daniel and I had been together for 3 years. We met through mutual friends at a neighborhood barbecue. He was funny, patient, easy to talk to, and worked in marketing for his father's company. Back then, I convinced myself he didn't act entitled. Maybe he didn't. At least that's what I believed in the beginning. When he proposed, I truly believed we'd spend the rest of our lives building something together. Not his family's life, ours. But the engagement slowly became exhausting. It always started with tiny comments, too small to justify an argument, too frequent to ignore forever. His mother examined a wedding photographer I'd found online and said, "Well, at this price point, you certainly get what you pay for." Another afternoon, I mentioned changing my own brake pads over the weekend. His younger sister laughed. "You actually fix your own car? That's adorable, as if mechanics don't exist for a reason." Everyone chuckled. Daniel smiled awkwardly and squeezed my hand. "They're just teasing." Another evening, his father asked about my job. "So when do you think you'll move into management?" "I'm happy where I am," I said. He nodded politely. "I'm sure ambition comes at different speeds." Perfectly polite, perfectly insulting. My parents noticed long before I admitted anything. One Sunday after dinner, my mother washed dishes beside me and asked, "Does his family always talk to you that way?" I forced a laugh. "They don't mean anything by it." She dried one plate slowly. "Emma, people usually mean exactly what they repeat." I changed the subject because I wasn't ready to hear it. Despite everything, I still believed Daniel loved me. Whenever someone crossed a line, he said just enough to make me think he had my back. At least that's what I believed until the rehearsal dinner. The evening started beautifully. His father stood first and welcomed me into the family. It sounded warm, almost, but more like a corporate merger than a speech about love. Then my father stood. He cleared his throat twice and looked directly at me. I've spent 29 years watching my daughter become someone I'm proud of. Kind, hardworking, honest. His voice cracked. "If she's chosen you, Daniel, I hope you'll spend every day remembering how lucky that makes you." The room applauded louder than before. My mother quietly wiped her eyes. Daniel reached for my hand, and for a moment, everything felt normal again. Then Daniel stood. He was already flushed from several glasses of wine. People laughed before he even spoke because he had always been naturally charming. He began telling everyone how we'd met, our first date, the time I burned homemade lasagna, and how I got hopelessly lost during our first road trip. I relaxed. Maybe tonight really would end happily. Then his smile shifted. "You know, when I first met Emma, I wasn't completely sure." A few guests laughed. My ex had this polish. Private schools, perfect manners, spoke French, knew exactly which wine to order. He shrugged. But it was all surface. More laughter. Then he turned toward me. "As for Emma, she's authentic. She's real." He paused just long enough for the room to grow quiet, even if she is pretty low class compared to someone like my ex. Complete silence swept across the table. Forks stopped moving. Someone set down a wine glass. Across from me, my mother's smile disappeared, and my father's jaw tightened. Daniel's parents weren't shocked. They looked amused, as though he'd only said something everyone at the table had been careful not to say out loud. A few of his friends looked away, embarrassed but not surprised. That hurt worse than the insult itself. This wasn't alcohol talking. It was the first honest sentence he'd ever spoken in front of everyone. My throat went dry. I took one slow sip of water, set the glass down, and stood. Every eye followed me. Daniel smiled uncertainly. "Emma." I looked directly at him. "You're right." Relief flashed across his face for exactly 1 second. "I could never compete with your ex," I said. "I'd never cheat on you the way she cheated on you, especially not with your college roommate." The color drained from Daniel's face. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. His father's smile vanished. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." I picked up my purse, looked once at my parents, and said, "Mom, Dad, let's go." Daniel finally found his voice. "Emma, wait, please." I didn't stop walking. Chairs scraped behind me. People began talking all at once. The restaurant doors opened, cool night air hit my face, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. I never looked back. The next morning, my apartment was quiet. No wedding playlist, no florist calling, no dress hanging on the closet door, just sunlight, silence, and my phone lighting up beside me. 93 missed calls, more than 200 text messages. Daniel had sent 34 of them, shifting from panic to apologies to blame. "Emma, please answer. I was drunk. You know I love you. You're overreacting. You're really throwing away everything we've built over one stupid comment?" His mother sent 11 messages, none of them asking whether I was hurt. "You've embarrassed our family. People are asking questions. This rehearsal dinner cost a fortune. You owe Daniel an apology." His father sent one message. "We need to discuss this like adults." Typical. Everything in his world was a business meeting. My younger brother wrote, "Sis, that was legendary. Mom keeps crying though. Call her when you wake up." That one made me smile. At exactly 9, the wedding planner called. "Good morning, Emma. I received your voicemail last night. I need to confirm before contacting vendors. You are canceling the wedding?" "Yes." "As in completely?" "Completely." She walked me through the financial damage. The venue deposit was gone. The caterer required full payment. The florist was non-refundable. The photographer and DJ would refund half. By the time she finished, I had lost almost $12,000. Money I'd spent 2 years saving. It hurt. That money represented skipped vacations, extra shifts, old phones instead of new ones, and lunches packed from home instead of bought outside. "What about Daniel's family's payments?" I asked. "They'll need to manage those directly. They're responsible for the rehearsal dinner, venue balance, decorations, and the tuxedo package. Their loss will be substantially larger." "Please cancel everything assigned to me. I'll cover what I owe." Before hanging up, she softened her voice. "For what it's worth, I was there last night. I don't think you made the wrong decision." I closed my eyes. "Thank you." Less than a minute later, Daniel called from a different number. "Emma, I noticed you've been trying to reach me. You canceled?" "Yes." "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious." He exhaled. "I was drunk." "I heard." "It was one sentence." "No, it was one truth." "It wasn't true." "Then explain it." He hesitated. "I was trying to say you have substance, unlike my ex." "So your compliment required calling me low class?" "It came out wrong." "You've said that already." "I didn't mean it." "Daniel, my mother has never accidentally called your family beneath us. My father has never accidentally laughed because someone fixes their own car. My brother has never accidentally mocked your career. Do you know why?" He said nothing. "Because that's not how we think." He tried again. "I'll apologize publicly." "It's too late. We'll tell everyone I was drunk." "You were, but alcohol doesn't invent beliefs. It removes filters." His breathing grew heavier. "You don't honestly believe I think you're beneath me." "I didn't yesterday. I do today." I hung up and blocked the number. Then I called my landlord. 3 months earlier, I'd given notice because I planned to move into Daniel's condominium after the wedding. That future no longer existed. "Any chance my notice is reversible?" I asked. He laughed softly. "You're lucky. The couple taking your apartment backed out yesterday. If you still want it, it's yours." Relief hit so fast I had to sit down. I absolutely want it. With my apartment secured, the next thing I needed to protect was my money. Daniel and I had opened a joint account 2 months earlier. It held $20,000. $15,000 belonged to me. $5,000 belonged to him. The banker explained that we couldn't close the account without both signatures, but I could withdraw my documented deposits. Within an hour, my savings sat safely inside a brand new account at another bank. I didn't touch his money, not $1. By noon, the wedding was canceled, my apartment was secure, My savings were protected, and my future belonged entirely to me again. I thought canceling the wedding would crush me. Instead, the weight I'd been carrying for months quietly disappeared. Around lunchtime, my mother called. "Sweetheart?" Her voice trembled. "How are you?" That almost broke me because she genuinely wanted to know. "I'm okay. You don't have to pretend." "I know." "What he said, Emma, none of that was true." "I know. Your father hasn't stopped pacing. He wanted to drive over there before sunrise." "I can picture that." "He had his truck keys in his hand." "What stopped him?" "I told him our daughter already defended herself. She doesn't need anyone finishing the fight." Tears finally reached my eyes. Not because Daniel had hurt me, but because my parents never questioned whether leaving had been right. They simply stood beside me. "We're proud of you," Mom whispered. "You remembered your worth." After we hung up, I cried for 5 minutes. Then I washed my face because life still needed to move forward. That evening, my best friend Olivia arrived carrying pizza, ice cream, and sparkling water. "I'm not asking how you are," she said, dropping the bags on my counter. "I'm here because you shouldn't eat heartbreak alone." I laughed despite myself. She handed me a plate. "I've been waiting 3 years to say something." "What?" "I never liked the way his family treated you. You seemed happy, so I kept quiet. But last night, Emma, nobody at that table looked shocked. They looked caught." They weren't shocked. They looked like people who had just heard something they already knew, but wished had never been said aloud. Like someone had accidentally spoken the quiet part out loud. Later, Daniel's father called from another number. "We need to discuss the financial obligations." He skipped the greeting entirely. There was no apology either. He got straight to the money. "I've handled my vendors," I said. "You'll need to handle yours. The venue alone costs $15,000. Then you're out $15,000. You've created a substantial financial problem." "No, your son did." He exhaled sharply. "Daniel made one unfortunate mistake. You don't destroy an entire future over one sentence. You destroy a future when that sentence reveals what someone has believed all along." "You're being emotional." "I'm being observant." His voice hardened. "Do you understand the life Daniel could have given you?" That single sentence explained everything. In his father's mind, marrying Daniel was something I should have been grateful for, not an equal partnership. "I don't want a life someone gives me," I said quietly. "I wanted a partner, not someone who thought he was rescuing me." I ended the call and blocked that number too. The week that should have been filled with final dress fittings, seating charts, and excitement turned into a siege. Different numbers, different people, same purpose. Every call, message, and surprise visit had the same goal: convince me to come back. Monday morning, Daniel's mother called my office. "Technical support. This is Emma. So this is where you hide. I'd appreciate it if you didn't call my workplace. I wouldn't have to if you answered your own phone. My personal phone is no longer available to you. You've embarrassed my son." He embarrassed himself. "You could have corrected him privately. I wasn't the one who insulted my partner publicly." She laughed softly. "You've always been sensitive." There it was again. Not an apology, a diagnosis. "My future begins the moment this call ends," I said, then hung up. A few minutes later, my supervisor walked over. "Everything okay?" "My ex's family." He nodded. "Reception has been instructed not to transfer any more personal calls. You've got the office on your side." That evening, the concierge called before I even reached my floor. "Ms. Carter, there's a woman downstairs insisting she's your future sister-in-law." "I don't have one anymore." "I figured. Would you like security to escort her out?" "Please." As I stepped into my apartment, faint shouting drifted up from the lobby. The shouting echoed through the lobby, filled with childish accusations and wounded pride. I locked my door and felt grateful for security. Daniel tried again, the next day from another borrowed phone. "Just 5 minutes," he said. "You have 3. "I've been thinking. So have I. I understand why you're hurt." "Hurt isn't the word." "What is?" "Awake." He went quiet. I continued. "I don't remember your insults as much as I remember your silence. Your mother criticized my parents, and you smiled awkwardly. Your father questioned my career, and you changed the subject. Your sister mocked my truck, and you squeezed my hand. I thought you were protecting me, but you were protecting them." His voice dropped. "I never wanted you to feel alone." "But I was." "I love you, Emma." "No, you love the version of me that quietly absorbed every insult. You don't love the woman who finally refused." He whispered, "Please don't do this." "I already did." I hung up. Wednesday brought Daniel's college friend to my favorite cafe, pretending it was a coincidence. "Oh, wow," she said brightly. "What are the chances?" "Low." She lasted 5 minutes before admitting Daniel had sent her. "He's devastated," she said. "People make stupid mistakes. Can't you forgive him?" I folded my napkin. "Do you know why I left?" "Because of what he said." "No, because of what everyone else didn't do. Nobody looked surprised. They looked embarrassed. If someone suddenly accused you of stealing, you'd look shocked. If someone accidentally announced something you've heard for years, you'd look exactly like they did." Her expression changed. "Oh, exactly." She stood quietly. "I'm sorry." Unlike everyone else, she didn't ask me to change my mind. She simply left. That night, memories arrived in pieces. His mother calling my handmade scarf sweet in the same tone people use for damaged furniture. His father suggesting my parents kept working because they didn't know any other lifestyle. Daniel quietly replacing the wedding invitations I chose with the expensive ones his mother preferred. Looking back, every compromise had pulled me closer to their expectations while taking me farther away from myself. Thursday evening, Olivia found me sitting on the living room floor beside unopened wedding gifts. She sat beside me without asking questions. After a while, she said, "You know what's different?" "What?" "Your breathing. For 3 years, you looked tense before seeing Daniel's family. You rehearsed conversations, worried about what to wear, wondered if your choices were good enough. You haven't done that once this week." She was right. For the first time in years, I wasn't rehearsing conversations before seeing his family. Friday morning, Daniel called again. "Saturday," he said. "Our wedding day. I'll still be there. I'll wait, in case you change your mind." "I won't." "You don't know that." "I do. You once told me love means choosing each other every day. I believed you, but love also means respect. Once respect disappears, there's nothing left to choose." Neither of us said anything for a moment. Finally, he whispered, "I don't know who I am without you." "That's something you'll have to learn." This time, when I ended the call, I didn't feel angry. I felt finished. Saturday arrived without an alarm clock, no makeup artist, no photographer texting for directions, no bridal suite, no wedding dress hanging from a closet door. Just sunlight across my bedroom floor and ordinary sounds outside. Birds, a lawnmower, the hum of my refrigerator. Ordinary suddenly felt extraordinary. I walked into the kitchen, made pancakes, burned the first batch, and threw away the calendar page that still said wedding day. Quiet movement. One chapter closed. My parents arrived carrying enough breakfast food to feed a football team. My mother hugged me without saying anything, and my father held up 2 paper bags. Emergency cinnamon rolls. "I didn't know those existed." "They do when your daughter's supposed to be getting married today." Olivia came soon after with board games, and my younger brother arrived with 3 pizzas before lunch. "It's not even noon," I said. "Trauma has no meal schedule." No one treated me like I was fragile. Nobody whispered or watched me every 5 minutes to see if I would cry. They simply stayed, talking and laughing, helping me remember that my life hadn't ended. It had changed direction. After lunch, my father stepped onto the balcony with me. For a while, we watched cars roll slowly below. "You know," he said, "when you were little, you hated swimming lessons." I screamed through every class. "You remember why?" "I thought I'd drown." "You kept grabbing the edge of the pool. You believed letting go would kill you." He looked at me. "Sometimes the thing you're holding on to is exactly what's keeping you from learning you can float." My throat tightened. "I almost married him." "You almost did." "I loved him." "I know." He rested one rough hand on my shoulder, but loving someone isn't the same as trusting the life they'll build with you. His hands still carried tiny marks from decades repairing engines. Hands that bought my first laptop, fixed my bicycles, changed flat tires, and held mine crossing streets. I had spent 3 years trying to impress people who looked down on those hands. "Dad, I'm sorry." "For what?" "For ever letting anyone make me question where I came from." His eyes softened. Never apologize for honest people. Around the time the ceremony should have begun, my brother's phone buzzed. "You might want to see this." Daniel had posted online. "Sometimes pride destroys beautiful things. I'm heartbroken, but I hope healing finds us both." Olivia rolled her eyes. "That's convenient. He forgot the part where he called you low class." Dad snorted. "Memory seems expensive in that family." I handed the phone back. "Leave it." "Aren't you going to respond?" "No. People who were there already know. People who weren't there don't matter." For the first time, I understood the difference between defending my reputation and protecting my peace. Late that afternoon, one of Daniel's cousins messaged me. "Emma, I'm sorry. I should have said something that night. Nobody deserved to hear that. I hope you're okay." I replied with 2 words. "Thank you." That was all. Some people had stayed silent because they agreed. Others stayed silent because they were afraid. I was beginning to understand the difference. That night, after everyone went home, I stood alone in my living room and looked around at my familiar furniture. The inexpensive bookshelf I assembled myself, the secondhand couch, the dining table Dad helped me refinish one summer. None of it looked low class. It looked like a life built honestly, one piece at a time. 6 weeks passed, and life settled into new routines. The calls became less frequent. The messages almost disappeared. I returned to work, slept through the night again, and began feeling like myself. The financial damage was real. I lost nearly $12,000. Daniel's family reportedly lost more than $40,000 between the venue, rehearsal dinner, decorations, tuxedos, and hotel reservations. Olivia later told me his mother had asked their family attorney if she could sue me. "For what?" I asked. hurting her feelings. Apparently, the lawyer explained that broken engagements weren't illegal. Even then, they still believe consequences belong to someone else. Mutual friends gradually reached out. Some apologized for staying quiet. Others admitted they'd always noticed the class comments but assumed I didn't mind. One friend told me, "I thought Daniel would say something." I gave her a sad smile. So did I. Daniel still refused to accept reality. Over the next month, he tried everything. Letters to my parents' house, messages through unknown numbers, mutual friends, even a LinkedIn request from one of his college friends asking for one mature conversation. I answered every attempt the same way. Silence. I'd heard enough. Another conversation wasn't going to change anything. Then an unfamiliar message arrived through social media. "Hi, Emma. You probably don't remember me. I worked catering at your rehearsal dinner. My name's Melissa." I remembered her. She'd complimented my shoes while arranging champagne glasses. "I just wanted you to know every single person working that event was rooting for you. When Daniel made that speech, the kitchen went completely quiet. One chef said, 'She's leaving.' When you stood up, nobody breathed. When you walked out, half the kitchen applauded." I stared at the message for a long time. It wasn't because strangers had taken my side. It was because they'd witnessed the same moment I had and reached exactly the same conclusion, without anyone trying to explain it away. I thanked her. She replied, "Never apologize for respecting yourself." I saved that message. Work improved too. My supervisor called me into his office one morning and offered me a promotion. Not huge, but enough to raise my salary and recognize my work. Walking back to my desk, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. No one was questioning whether I was impressive enough. No one was comparing me to someone wealthier. No one was measuring my worth against a family name. A few weeks later, Olivia dragged me to a backyard barbecue. "I don't want to date anyone." "You aren't. You're eating hamburgers." Halfway through the afternoon, she introduced me to Nathan, a high school history teacher with an aging Honda and an easy smile. When I mentioned replacing my own brake pads, he didn't laugh. "No kidding? My dad never taught me. What tools do you use?" We spent 20 minutes talking about engines. When I admitted most of my apartment furniture came from IKEA, he grinned. "Mine too. I still get lost building the bookshelves." Then he spilled ketchup on his shirt, looked down, and said, "And that's why I shouldn't be trusted around condiments." I laughed harder than I expected. Everything felt easy. No performances, no invisible standards, just two ordinary people talking. Word traveled fast. Within days, Daniel heard I was seeing someone. According to Olivia's cousin, he lost his temper. "She moved on already? Did she ever love me? Who is this guy?" I listened quietly, then handed Olivia back her phone. "Does it bother you?" she asked. "No, it makes me sad." "For him?" "For the version of him that still thinks losing me is about competition." Nathan was helping an elderly neighbor carry folding chairs across the yard without anyone asking. Simple, kind, uncomplicated. Watching Nathan laugh with my family, I realized healing rarely arrives in one dramatic moment. Sometimes it grows so quietly you don't notice until you're finally at peace. Then one last message arrived. Not from Daniel, not from his parents. From Claire, his ex-girlfriend. "Hi, Emma. You don't know me very well. I'm Claire, Daniel's ex. I heard what happened at your rehearsal dinner. I'm sorry. You deserve better than that." She added one final line. "If you'd ever like to know why I left that family, I'd buy the coffee. No expectations, just honesty." I almost deleted it. Not because I was angry, but because I wasn't sure there was any reason to reopen a chapter I had finally closed. But her message felt different from every apology, excuse, and manipulation I'd received. There was no pressure, no hidden agenda. 2 days later, I agreed to meet her. We chose a quiet cafe across town. She arrived first and stood when I walked in. "You must be Emma." "And you're Claire." For a second, we simply looked at each other. Then we both laughed. "I guess this is awkward," she said. "A little." We ordered coffee and sat near the window. Finally, Claire spoke. "I wanted to apologize." "You don't owe me one." "I do. I heard what Daniel said, and I kept thinking I should have reached out sooner." I stirred my coffee. "I appreciate that. When he compared you to me, I almost dropped my phone. I hated hearing it." "I hated it too." She looked down at her cup. "The worst part is I wasn't surprised." My attention sharpened. "Daniel wasn't always obsessed with status," she said. "But his family always was. The first Christmas I spent with them, his mother criticized my dress by calling it charming. I thought it was a compliment. It wasn't." "I've heard that word before." "I figured." She gave a tired smile. "They never insulted you directly. They complimented you in a way that reminded you you didn't belong." Her father was a plumber. Daniel's parents had joked for years that her family knew how to fix things because they couldn't afford replacements. I stared at her. They said something similar about my dad. For nearly an hour, we compared stories. Whether it was Christmas dinner or an ordinary family meal, the message never changed. We would never be enough. "You aren't quite enough." "You know the saddest part?" Claire asked. I spent years trying to become someone they might approve of. I changed the way I dressed, the people I spent time with, even the hobbies I pretended to enjoy. None of it ever earned their approval. I understood exactly what she meant. Eventually, I asked, "Did you really cheat on Daniel?" She looked directly at me. "Yes, I did. I was wrong. I apologized. He had every right to leave me." She didn't try to justify what she'd done. After a brief pause, she continued, "I spent 3 years trying to become someone his family could finally respect. One day I couldn't recognize myself anymore. I should have left, honestly. Instead, I left badly. I've regretted that ever since." For the first time, I saw her as a real person instead of the woman Daniel had used as a weapon against me. Before we left, Claire said, "When Daniel proposed to you, I hoped he'd finally grown up. I guess neither of us got that version." Outside the cafe, we hugged goodbye. Not because we were suddenly close friends, but because we had survived the same storm. Driving home, the answer I'd been searching for finally settled in. The problem had never been that I wasn't sophisticated enough, wealthy enough, or refined enough. The problem was that I had spent 3 years asking people to value me when they had already decided they wouldn't. That evening, Nathan texted, "Dinner Friday?" I smiled. "I'd love that." There were no games to decode or hidden expectations to worry about. Just a man asking me to dinner because he genuinely enjoyed my company. A month later, my parents came to visit. Dad insisted we go to a baseball game. Mom packed enough homemade food for an entire neighborhood. Nathan joined us halfway through the afternoon, and he and Dad spent almost an hour talking about old engines. Mom leaned toward me. "I like him." "So do I." "He looks at you differently." "How?" "Like he's trying to know you, not improve you." I looked toward Nathan. He was laughing as Dad proudly showed him photos of the truck they'd restored years earlier. There wasn't a trace of embarrassment. No polite smile. No hidden judgment. Just genuine interest. That was when I understood how much my definition of love had changed. I finally understood that love isn't about proving your worth or earning someone's approval. It's about feeling safe enough to be yourself. Sometimes I think about that rehearsal dinner with gratitude. One careless sentence exposed 3 years of hidden truth before I signed a marriage certificate. People still ask whether I regret canceling the wedding. Never. Daniel thought calling me low class would shame me. Instead, it reminded me exactly where I came from. I came from parents who worked hard, kept every promise they made, and judged people by their character instead of their bank accounts. That was the only legacy I had ever needed. If respecting people matters more than impressing them, then I'll proudly stay low class for the rest of my life. I drove away believing I'd just lost my future. Looking back, it was the first day I finally got it back.